I'm the Disc Golf Guy, and we are out here at Smuggler's Notch in Vermont for the 2015 Green Mountain Championship. 288 players here at this PDGA A-Tier. That is double the size of the previous field we've seen out here before. Good. The A-Tier kicks off today with the professionals playing 2 rounds here on Friday, 1 on Saturday, and 1 on Sunday. Music, food, very festival-like atmosphere going on all weekend. We're going to have footage and action coming to you from all over the place. Again, we're out here for the 2015 FallFest at Smuggler's Notch. Welcome to Friday morning's action here at Brewster Ridge. We have 3-time world champ Nate Doss, along with USDGC champion Steve Brinster, Jason Dorr, and rounding out the card is our current champion, 2-time champ, Ricky Wysocki. These players got off to a rough start, especially on the tee pad of hole number 2. Things were a little bit slick this morning. However, they were starting to dial it in as the morning warmed up. We're looking at some gorgeous shots that came in on the front 9. We're excited to catch up with these players as we move to the back during the first round action right here at the 2015 Green Mountain Championships.
All right, that was the front 9. Now let's head to the back.
I'm Terry Miller, the Disc Golf Guy, and I'm joined here in studio with Jeff Spring, our tournament director, as well as our current reigning champion, Ricky Wysocki. And Jeff, hole number 11 here, big left to right par 4. What are they looking at?
Yeah, you got to turn the disc left to right off the tee, and you hit a landing zone. And if you're not in the landing zone, it can get a little tricky because it's a protected green, low ceiling, and you can see that these guys are really throwing some great shots off the tee. Rick, do you like to go backhand on this one?
Yeah, you know, I've gone backhand in the past, but this year I threw a sidearm. I like the angle. Like you said, you have to make sure to play the fairway, and I feel like the left to right sidearm is the perfect play for this tee shot.
And one thing that's a little bit deceptive, as we just watched Steve Brinster go past those trees, is that it's tough to judge how far those trees are past the basket.
It's about 35 feet, so you got to clear it right there. You see Nate hit one of them and kick left, and now he's got to putt a little outside the circle. So as Rick approaches here, he misses them and skips in and has a little easier look. This was our feature group on day 1, Rick. How'd the play go out there?
As you guys have already heard, the front 9 was a little bit of a struggle as the temperatures were a little cooler, and as the day went on, the scores got hotter, and so did the temperature. So I think those went hand in hand.
We see a couple solid putts to wrap things up. And Rick, you actually missed your birdie putt there, but came back and still took care of it with the par.
All right, here we are on hole 12. It's a little downhill shot, about 360 feet right to left. Steve threw a great shot, got through the gap there, and should be right next to the hole. Rick, how do you like to play this one?
You know, usually I like to play this one with a putter. You know, I just want to, you're going to focus on hitting the initial gap right there. As you see, Nate has thrown a pretty shot a little bit left, but you want to puncture a little bit straighter than that and just try and get down there for a putt, as the green's a pretty fast green.
Yeah, there's a little drop off behind this one as we see Jason Dorr put it in there. The dynamics of this group, you know, Steve has played this course a lot. Nate's back, and he was second place last time he was here to you. How did it play out through the rest of the day?
It was great. I mean, we all kind of fed off each other's good play here on the back 9. So, you know, we had a great group, and we've all played together here on these courses. So we're definitely a very familiar situation for all of us.
You see Nate Doss had gone long actually on his birdie attempt, and in rare form, Nate Doss from inside 20 feet doesn't make good. He's going to card the bogey here before we move on to the next hole.
Brewster Ridge Disc Golf and Smuggler's Notch Resort would like to thank Fiddlehead Brewing Company, producing full-flavor beers with a true beer connoisseur in mind. We'd like to thank them for the collaboration with Nate Doss on Understable Session IPA. now we're moving on to hole 13. This is a par 4 that moves extremely left to right. A lot of folks throw putter or mid-range off the tee, and Steve's right down that left side, and you're really trying to set up for a look into a tunnel that will get you back to the pin.
Yeah, you know, this shot is all about placement. I think I threw mine a little bit early right, but I ended up getting a good kick. So you just want to place your drive down that path you can see, and that's a good landing zone.
Oh, and
That's not such a good landing zone, Rick. And everything wanting to stick up in that tree, including the sticks and whatever else Nate can do to try to get that down from there. Not too often you got multiple camera coverage right here trying to retrieve a disc. Great effort there by Nate Doss.
2 camera view points on that beautiful disc rescue.
Yeah, it looks like Nate throws a great out shot after getting stuck in that tree to give himself a putt.
And this is your upshot.
Yep, this upshot, you just want to kind of get through that initial gap and make sure you find the green for a putt at 3.
Yeah, Jason had a really nice looking shot there. You got to throw it straight and have late action to the right. Steve Brinster with a rare flick.
I was just going to say, not often do you see Steve Brinster throwing a forehand, and I got to see a couple of them this round, so that may indicate a little bit of his trials or tribulations.
And that's the second big putt that we've seen Nate hit. He was putting well, it looks like, and I think you guys were all bunched up by the end of this round.
Yep, you know, we all had our struggles in the beginning. I think we all figured it out at the back 9, so I think we were all, me and Nate.
And then your amazing play by Steve Brinster, as we're seeing. Steve had a challenge really on hole number 2, as did Nate Doss, and then everyone seemed to get into their groove.
And a good putt from Steve.
He wanted to double check that one. It almost seemed like it wanted to come out the backside. However, it hung in there, and we're going to move on to the next hole.
All right, and here's 14. It's par 3 up the hill. Jason Dorr is probably throwing about a mid-range. Rick, what do you throw on this?
You know, like you just said, I throw a mid-range. I'm just trying. The hole bends a little bit right to left, but the initial gap is a nice straight shot. So I like to play it just straight and take the 30-footer or so left.
Yeah, there is a bank to the left that can be a little hazardous, so that's probably the safe play, as you see most people going over there.
Now this hole actually measures in under 300 feet, if I'm correct. And,
That's right.
But it plays much further, doesn't it?
Yeah, it seems to play a little over 300. I don't know what you think, Rick.
Yeah, you know, everyone seems to play that right side gap, and it takes a little bit more distance to go to the right side than it does to go straight at it up the middle.
Sure, and we saw Steve continuing his hot play with a good shot. He's going to have a birdie putt. Your putting was pretty much on. Oh, goodness.
Yeah, and I got to just say, that putt was pretty much on, as were so many of Ricky's, and Nate took it like a champ, and we're just going to have to move on. It looks like Ricky has struggled a little bit too off the front. And we're going to break away for just a few moments. We're going to check in with Simon Lizotte, sending one of our additional cameras out. We hear he's shooting hot, and we want to bring you some of that sweet action.
All right.
Hope you enjoyed some of the aggressive play featured by the German Simon Lizotte. Let's get back to our featured card right here on hole number 18. Ricky Wysocki, Jason Dorr, Nate Doss, and Steve Brinster ready to wrap up their final hole here on number 18.
So, Rick, how did you feel about the round in general? I know we've talked a little bit about your putting, but overall after the first round, what are you feeling right now?
Yeah, you know, I was pretty happy with my round coming into 18. You know, I think me and Steve were really close coming up to this point, and I think that we both knew that we were both pushing a birdie on this hole, and he was having a great back 9 to make up for his 6 on hole 2, which he did. He didn't have a great tee shot on this hole, but he still ended up having a great round, and just glad to see we're all thriving off each other's vibes.
Yeah, you guys seem to be pushing for the course record here, which is the 48 that Nate shot 2 years ago. Still hasn't been caught yet, but it seemed like you guys were in the mix this round.
You know, me and Steve were thriving off each other. Nate had a bit of a rough round, but
he pulled through, you know, ultimately, and I think we're going to see that he knows the tournament's not over. He's got plenty of good shots left in him.
Yeah, great demeanor. And in this 18th hole, it's open, but it's a tough shot off the tee. So you saw Steve pull it a little right because it's a narrow gap. It kind of becomes a choke point at about the midway point.
yeah, the initial gap is mostly open, but it pinches off, like you said, down by the green, and there's a lot of trees, and there's a bush that you got to get over. So it makes it a tough spot to hit, and it's a tough little green up there.
Yep, and there's a lot of, you got to know where to land because there's a lot of little trees and branches, and looks like Nate has a clear look there, but couldn't get it.
Hole 18 just not playing as easy as I think it should be. I was kind of shocked here. We saw 4 missed opportunities. You guys are going to wrap up the round. Still a very solid performance by you guys. Looking forward to seeing the action in round number 2. I've caught up with Steve Brinster after round 1 out here at the 2015 Green Mountain Championship. Steve, this was my first time seeing Brewster's Ridge. You're a veteran. Tell us how it went out there.
I think it went pretty good. You know, I threw a lot of good shots. I had a few bad holes, a few mistakes, a couple short missed putts. But, you know, I was giving myself a lot of opportunities and for the most part stayed out of trouble. And that's, you know, that's what you're looking to do out here.
And it seemed like the group started out just a little bit slow, and I know you struggled early on hole 2, but right after that, it seems like you kind of got into the groove you're looking for.
Yeah, you know, that hole is definitely a challenge. It's one of the harder holes in the course.
I've caught up with our 2-time champion out here at the Green Mountain Championships. This is Ricky Wysocki. Now, Ricky, this morning you opened up at Brewster's Ridge with a 9 under, a 51. Tell us about it.
I just played steady, didn't do anything too crazy. Just kept it in the fairway, which is key out here. I didn't really get off the fairway too much. I missed a few opportunities, but hopefully next time we play that course, I'll capitalize.
What are you planning on this afternoon's round when you go out to the other course, which is pretty different?
Yeah, totally different style course. This course can get windy, and you just got to manage the wind if there is some, and there's a lot more out of bounds. That course is more wooded and tight.
It's not really about the lines as much as just placement shots and staying in bounds.
You got to go out there with a good game plan, play within yourself, but you know, there's certainly scoring opportunities out there as well.
I've been told that every time they've had this event, you've won it.
Yeah, I've been here since the very beginning, and it's a great tournament. Vermont's awesome.
It's probably the most beautiful place I've been in the country. So,
Man, that says a lot. You've traveled around to a lot of different
Exactly.
courses.
No, it's really incredible, and I'm sure in like a month when fall really gets kicked in, it's going to be even more.
All right, this is Paul Uliberry. You opened the tournament with a 52. That is Steve Brinster, one of the hot rounds here. We're out here at the Green Mountain Championships. That's Ricky Wysocki, 9 under par.
All right, and welcome to round 2 of the Green Mountain Championship. We're out here on Fox Run Meadows, hole 4. This is part of a 10-hole expansion to Fox Run 9 that has made it 18 holes. We took 1 out of the original 9, added 10 out around Bootlegger's Basin at Smuggler's Notch Resort, and it played really well. We were able to get some really beautiful footage. A lot more open. This hole is a par 4, and it's hole number 4, and you can see we're picking it up with the new lead card, and Dario Ray joined Steve and Ricky. Here's Steve Brinster's drive, and it looks like he got it past a swath of long grass. Here's Andrew Hank Hendry with his approach, and it looks like he's going just right, and maybe he got over that rock pile. But at this point, I want to welcome Terry and Rick back in. Rick, what were your thoughts on this new expansion?
It was great. It was a great compliment to the already awesome 18-hole course at the Brewster Ridge. That was the permanent course, and this is a temp course right now, and I hope to be permanent because this course is definitely deserves the permanent status. It's a great views, great design, and a really fun tournament course. Yeah,
and we really hope to bring this back for next year as well. Terry, you're out there filming. pretty beautiful palette here to get some beautiful shots on.
Yeah, if you look at even just right there on the backdrop, I had to stand right where I did, knowing that I could get that mountain view in the background, and it was just an amazing place to be, an amazing place to visit. Now, I got to tell everyone, it was unseasonably warm this entire first and second round, and even moving into the third round. It was a little bit warmer out here than what I've heard from in Vermont, but these players are getting to it and having a good time with it. See Hank tap in with the lefty, and I have to pan to that view.
Yeah, this is the Sterling Range of Vermont's Green Mountains, right up the spine of the state, and a beautiful backdrop for this tournament. All right, and here's hole 5 of Fox Run Meadows. It's over 400 feet downhill, so for players of your caliber, it's not necessarily a distance challenge, but a placement challenge as we see the basket near the Bootleggers Basin water hazard. What do you think about this one, Rick?
Yeah, well, this is a perfect example of what the Fox Run Meadows course offers. It's got great views out of bounds, as you can see, and it's got the lake just 10 to 15 feet left of the basket. So that makes this hole very challenging when it gets windy and even when it's not windy.
Yeah, Brinster with a high spike in, and it looks like he's safe.
Now, there is OB on this right-hand side, which some players concern themselves with, and maybe not enough there by Hank, would you say,
Yeah,
on the right-hand side?
looks like he was OB. He dropped where he crossed, and now he's chipping up and trying to save his bogey. Dario from Canada is here. How was it playing with Dario, Rick?
He's definitely a character. He's got his own character, and he's really unique. So I really like that about him. You know, I can always play with the same old person every week, but he's a new person to play with, and I really enjoyed playing with him. He's a great guy.
Yeah, and these putts are dangerous. We see a bunch of misses. Ooh, that one just barely, but short because right behind you is water. You didn't have to worry about that too much. About 10 feet from 440. Nice drive.
Yeah.
Now, isn't it true that you didn't find the water during the round, but after the round you found yourself in that water? What were you doing?
Oh yeah, I definitely got myself in some Vermont streams and jumped into the waterfalls after the round to cool off.
Yeah, another benefit of the beautiful terrain and scenery around the course. All right, now this is coming back up. This is hole 6. It's a par 3. It's just short of 300 feet, I believe. And there are a couple trees like that one that can cause a little trouble for players.
Yeah, so this one's just about 250 feet uphill, and the tough part about this hole is the out of bounds. And you really just gotta, it's kind of like a blind green. In the out of bounds, you can't really see it all, so you really just got to make sure to throw a good drive to take the out of bounds out of play.
Yeah, it looks like most of the players had an easy time getting it in, but Steve right there, a little too far, and misses birdie putt.
A little too much mustard on that one. He's going to actually find himself tucked behind a few of these guardian trees, and it's going to prove to be a little bit more challenging than Steve was hoping for, especially when you have 3 other players on the card looking at drop-in birdies. And this is Steve for par.
Oh, just misses and a little bit high. It's tough from a tough position in a bunker like that with little baby sumacs. Smuggler's Notch Resort and Brewster Ridge Disc Golf would like to thank Discraft for supporting the Green Mountain Championships as our presenting sponsor. Discraft, 35 years of quality, consistency. Discraft. All right, here is hole 7, and this is one of the signature holes on our new layout. This is over 1,150 feet. It's a par 5, and there is a choice to be made off the tee. Are you going over that, or are you laying up? There's a stream that runs right in front of it, and Ricky, you're going over here.
Yeah, you know, this is a great hole, great risk-reward hole. And you can, like you said, you have 2 options. You can throw the 400-plus foot layup, which Dario and I chose to do here, or you can throw a layup as Hank Hendry did right here. So this is a great hole. You can lay up or go for it, and either way, it's not an easy hole.
Yeah, Steve didn't like that one. You cannot fade too much to the left, or else you're OB, and he skipped right off the bridge there. After a hot first round, Steve struggled a little bit in this round, but you were just heating up, and your drive over the stream was in bounds, as we see Hank and his more conservative route, being played very effectively there.
I think for most of the people that would come out to this course and play it in a more casual fashion, they're going to find themselves coming up short of that bridge. It really takes quite a pull and a throw to be able to get over that bridge, as Dario and Ricky did so easily.
Yeah, and Dario's in position A, as we saw Steve go out of bounds again, unfortunately. There is a big bubble here that you want to land in, and it looks like Dario did land in a really great position. How far did you have to set up for your attack on the green?
Well, you know, this hole is just about placement, so I just want to make sure I was in a good distance, that I had a, you know, safe distance, and I dialed that distances in practice. So I just want to make sure I had a good distance into the green and not have too short or too long of an upshot.
Mm-hmm. And it is an island-ish green, so it's not an island per se. There's a little track to it, but if you want to go right at the pin, you go over OB just like Steve did. And does he stay in bounds?
No, he carries too far as Ricky's setting up for his third shot. And I confirmed, Ricky, you said this was a triple X, going with plenty of stability there, aren't you?
Yeah, you know, I just saw Steve throw it a little long, so I dished down a little bit after seeing him. And, you know, I just dialed in the distance on this hole, and I parked that one.
Yep, and here's Dario to try to put his onto the green near the pin on his third shot. And he does it, and he's going to have a birdie putt as well. So, you know, you do have to have the distance, but you have to have the control, as you're saying, Rick. You got to place it and make sure that you're in control to get a birdie on this hole, as Hank unfortunately went out of bounds and then throws up right next to the basket, and he'll have a look at par.
And Steve continues to struggle here. He's a little bit frustrated. He's kept his composure very well, although he's been struggling for the past few holes. However, he's going to card himself a snowman. It's 80 degrees out here, and he still finds a snowman 8 on this hole. Ricky taps in with the easy birdie, and Dario's frustrated. Rick, I know you don't like watching other people miss putts. What were you thinking there?
Yeah, it's very frustrating. He had just thrown 3, you know, the great shots which you need to get a look at birdie here, and he just struggled on the putt. But, you know, 5 isn't a horrible score, but when you're right there, you want to capitalize.
All right, and we're moving on to hole 8. This is playing up on the other side of this meadow from 7. It is a long, long par 4, and it's tough to reach. I think we only had 1 or 2 birdies on this hole the entire week, and there's a great look at the corner you got to start getting around off the tee. Did you have any trouble with these tee shots on hole 8?
Yes, you know, this is a great design, left to right hole, like you said, and it's a tough tee shot. You really want to place your drive, you know, pretty far off the tee, but you don't want to bite off too much, because if you hyzer out at all, there's out of bounds, and then you're looking at 5 at being your best score, because this is a really long uphill to the green. As you can see, Dario's throwing a controlled layup, just playing for a par, which is a great score on this tough par 4.
Yep, and there's your approach. I mean, you're really laying into that one. It looks like you lost it a little left. Did it stay in bounds?
Yeah, you know, like I said, this green really pinches off by the basket, and I think I did lose it a little bit left, and I think I trickled out of bounds.
Looks like as if maybe that uphill, you know, run up that you had there may have attributed to that slightly earlier release.
Yeah, you know, it's an uphill run up, and you know, you got to throw it pretty far. So you want to try and get a good run up and throw it pretty hard, because this is a really long upshot into the green.
Yeah, and it's tight OB by the green, so you can't just throw it in there with a lot of speed. You got to place it. It's got to be accurate. And wow, what a par save!
Yeah, that was after going out of bounds. So I was happy to save par on this one of the toughest par 4s on the course.
Let's look at the replay, and OB right behind it, just over the rim, and that's a relief, because you were working on a really special round at this point, and you didn't want your momentum to be stalled. So when you got it going, do you just try to keep rolling? Any thoughts come in there? Try to push them out? What do you think?
Yeah, you know, I was just in the zone at this point, and you know, I didn't, like you said, I didn't want to have, you know, this bogey on this hole, you know, stall my momentum. So I really was wanting to make that, and I think, you know, I just convinced myself that I wanted to make it, and that's the best feeling.
All right, and now we're moving on to hole 9. Hole 9 is one of the tougher holes on this new layout. It's got a steep embankment on the right, which is marked OB, and we also have the bank on the left, which is marked OB, as we can't really play from there. So It's 450 feet down this hill, definitely reachable, but you can't let your disc go left or right. You got to control it all the way until it's finished. You can see the beautiful Madonna Mountain of Smuggler's Notch Resort, and here's Rick teeing off, and the basket's just to the right of that big rock down there. Rick, how'd you feel about that one?
You know, I've played this shot really well. It was getting a little windy, and I just wanted to make sure to play it safe, having the round going that I did, and I threw it to about 25 to 30 feet left, which is pretty safe for me with all the out of bounds on this hole.
Yep. And here's Dario. A lot of people struggled to just even get it in off the tee when the winds picked up. Terry, you saw a lot of shots here. Probably more tough ones than good ones.
Yeah, one thing that I noticed throughout the weekend is there was a lot of people bailing out to the left, just as we saw with that. Looks like he's going to stay in bounds. However, when people bail out to the left, they're going to find themselves OB, or when you're flirting with those right-hand trees. Steve got a good break there, though, to keep him in bounds and be able to approach from where he did.
Yeah, I think Steve was having a little bit of a rough round, so I think he just decided to lay up on this hole. He wasn't feeling the most confident with his swing, and I think he was just going to be content with the par on this one of the tougher par threes on the course.
Yeah, and here's Hank. Hank played well all weekend, and you see that he's made it to the lead card, and he's from New Jersey, and it's his first time up here. We really liked having him here, as well as Dario. Here's Steve for par.
Got it. He knocks it in. It was good to see that he was stopping the bleeding after the snowman 2 holes before that.
All right, and here's hole 10. We're down by the tee. This is a left to right shot. It drops down and then comes back up, and the basket's on the bank just around that tree. I think you can catch it there on the right side of your screen. And this one, really, you want a 2 on it, right, Rick?
Yeah, there's, as you can see from right there, there's a pretty steep drop off just to the right of where, about 20 feet right of where that disc just landed. So there's a steep drop off, so it keeps a lot of people landing left of the basket and taking a safe 30-footer, 25 to 35 feet left of the basket, just to take the steep out of bounds cliff to the right out of play. Oh, Dario landed in that spot. That's right 30 feet left of the basket, where I was saying that's what makes this hole a challenge, is that cliff. It's in your head, and you just want to make sure to stay away from it.
Well, unless you're you and you're just making a nice solid putt here to move on with another birdie before they move on to what we'll find is another challenging par 4.
As we see the scores come up here, one of the really great parts about this layout is that it's great for spectators. You see some great camera angles looking down on the players, and we had a couple cameras out there. How'd you enjoy filming around the basin?
Yeah, it was amazing being here for the first time and checking out all of these shots. And even when hearing some of the players say after Rick had just thrown there, it was like, well, that's one way to go. And we're seeing some of these other shots, highs are off. So always finding out where you want to be and then seeing that we can film from multiple angles, I feel like it gives everyone a real taste for what they're seeing out here at this Fox Run Meadow course.
Yeah, and this is set up with a tree right in the middle, about 150 feet. You see it there, off the tee, and it looked like most players were playing to the right of it. Did anybody think about going to the left, or do you see any shots to the left of it, Rick?
Yeah, I mean, going left of it is a pretty aggressive play, because you can see that hill and the out of bounds flags just at the edge of that hill. Most people are going right just to play it safe.
Yeah, and there's the rock wall. You got to get right over the rock wall, and pretty much if you pop it over, you're gonna have a putt. But if you hit the line you just hit, you should be next to the basket.
Yeah, I threw it far enough to where I was able to almost just take a long jump putt into the green, which is pretty safe.
Yeah.
Like the right play.
Otherwise, it's so risky. Everything here is risky. And like the sidearm is nice, but tons of action. I think it's the right shot.
Yeah, and we see Dario getting the advice of his caddy as he tries to get into there. Terry, what's going on here?
Right here, where Hank is discussing as to if he places his mini, great putt there, as to if he's placing his mini, it was going to move some of the dirt or debris or a little bit of the tree bark there. Ricky came over and gave him a hand. He could have just moved that on his own, but he was making sure with the rest of the group that he was playing all within the rules.
And Dario with a great make on hole 11 of the basin layout. And Rick, pretty easy birdie there for you. If you get a good drive off, it turns into an up and down that you should be able to capitalize on. And we bring the basin back into play on hole 12. This hole originally measured 360 feet, but with a change in the pin location, it got pushed back, and it is actually playing a little bit closer to 375, 380. You're throwing a giant hyzer on this, Rick.
Yeah, you know, there's 2 rocks that sit right between one short and one long of the basket, so that's a good way for you to gauge this where you want to throw your disc. So, you know, I was just trying to play to the in between the rocks, and I think I threw it 25 long to take the water out of play.
Yeah, and we saw Hank get a little bit too close there, and Steve. I'm not sure if those hung on and stayed in, but this one from Dario looks like it's definitely in the water.
One thing that's surprising here is that the players are not hanging it wider out to the right-hand side with no OB to even flirt with. I'm surprised we saw so many shots finish left of the pin.
Well, it's trickier. If you haven't played it much, you know, Rick got out here and practiced a bunch of rounds beforehand, but it looks like Steve stayed in, and this is his birdie putt. But if you haven't played it, the disc really wants to move left to the water. There's a couple gusty gusts that come over the ridge, and you can't really feel it back where the tee is. Here we are on hole 13. This is an elevated tee to a island field. In this field, you know, you can throw about 450 feet and still be in bounds, and then you're set up for an even longer second shot. This is marked a par 5, but it's definitely gettable. You can get an eagle on this, Rick, and I think you were playing for 3 most of the weekend.
Yeah, you know, it's like you said, it's about 450 feet to the edge of the out of bounds, so you want to make sure to not flirt with that and put yourself in play so you have a good opportunity to get across the out of bounds goalie on your second shot.
Yeah, there's a swath of wetlands that we see Hank throwing over. Hank had it really working with these anhyzer shots. It seemed like he had a lot of control with the turn of his shots, and they're always coming back, and he was throwing it great all weekend.
Yeah, we were all good to see him playing in the lead group. Hank, he was a good thrower, and like you said, he's good at working the disc from left to right and then having it hyzer back. We were really glad to see him playing well in this lead group.
Yeah, Brinster went really high there. You got to throw it up in the air to get it all the way back there. This approach, you know, the hole is 800 and almost 50 feet. I think it's 830. So you got to throw it high, and it looks like you hit the right height on that one. Did that get back around the bunker on that left side?
Yeah, I think I got a little bit. I went a little bit left into those trees. It pinches off by the basket, so it's open in that field, but then once you get closer to the basket, it pinches off with woods on both sides, so that's what makes this hole pretty tough.
And Brinster had a little bit of obstruction there, which is why you saw him go with a non-traditional straddle putt from that distance.
Hank wasn't quite close enough to capitalize, and you just missed your birdie as well, or your eagle putt, I should say, but Hank knocks his comebacker in, Dario cleans up, and we're rolling off of these basin holes on Fox Run Meadow and heading back to some of the holes of the original Fox Run 9.
It was a beautiful day at the Green Mountain Championships at Smuggler's Notch Resort. We watch our lead group finish up these last 5 holes of Fox Run Meadows and look towards tomorrow, where hot rounds from Nate Doss, Paul Ulibarri, and Simon Lizotte have pushed them onto the lead card, all chasing down Ricky Wysocki, who had an 1100 rated round 2, 49, 15 under. Make sure to check out our shot-by-shot coverage of round 3, coming soon to Vimeo On Demand. As we wrap up our video coverage of day 1, make sure to check out the fantastic FallFest party that we had, featuring Cat Wright and the Indomitable Soul Band and Fiddlehead's can release party.
This is a real, like a dream come true. Hopefully we can do this many more times, but it's just great to get a great beer in the hands of craft beer fans and disc golf fans alike. So it's really exciting for sure.
It's just the same old faces running to the same old places, and there's no one to me. I must confess, I do my best to try and put tell Fox